A man sleeps beneath a young tree at the edge of a field. The light is low and gold, his coat is gray with dust. We do not see his face, only the slow rise of his chest, and beside him, a sapling no taller than his boot. The frame holds, nothing moves but a single leaf, then time turns, the shadows swing. The sapling thickens, splits the frame, becomes an oak with 100 years in its trunk, and still the man sleeps. He did nothing, and nothing was the most profitable thing he could have done. There is a story that gets told in trading rooms and quiet offices, passed hand to hand like a worn coin. The story goes that a great fund, Fidelity is the name usually attached, once looked inside its own house to find which clients had done best. Not the loudest, not the cleverest, simply the best. And the answer, so the story goes, embarrassed everyone. The top accounts belonged to people who had forgotten they owned them. Some had changed addresses and lost the thread. Some, it is said, had died, and their holdings sat untouched while the estate moved slowly through the courts. They had one thing in common: they never traded. They could not sell in a panic because they were not there to panic. I should be honest with you. This is a famous, often repeated story, and no one has ever produced the study behind it. Treat it as a legend, but a legend that survives because it points at something true. The truth it guards is this: the enemy of the long-term investor is usually the investor. We call the discipline it describes the Rip Van Winkle portfolio. Money arranged so well and so calmly that you could fall asleep for 20 years and wake up wealthier for having done nothing at all. Watch a man at a screen when the market falls. His shoulders rise, his hand finds the mouse. Red numbers slide down the glass and something ancient in him says, do something, anything, movement is safety. This is the oldest trick the mind plays. It mistakes activity for control. When we cannot bear how a thing feels, we trade, we tinker, we rotate. We tell ourselves we are managing risk, when often we are only managing our discomfort and charging ourselves a fee to do it. Consider two silhouettes against the same falling chart. One is frantic, leaning in, clicking, sweating the candle. The other sits back, hands folded, watching the storm the way a farmer watches whether he cannot change. A year later, the frantic one is poorer. Not because he was unlucky, because he was busy. There is a measured cost to all this motion, and it has a name: the behavior gap. Study after study of real accounts finds the same quiet pattern. The average individual investor earns less than the very funds they hold. Not because the funds failed them, because they bought after the rise and sold after the fall, and paid the difference for the privilege of feeling in control. The fund went up, the investor, jumping in and out of it, did not keep all of the gain. The gap between the two is the price of restlessness. A still pond holds the whole sky without effort. A churning one holds nothing, only its own agitation. The patient investor understands a thing the anxious one cannot. It is time in the market that compounds, not timing the market. Timing asks you to be right twice, right when you sell, and right again when you buy back. Miss either and the math turns against you quietly, then all at once. The market does much of its lifetime's work in a handful of days, scattered without warning across the years. Step out to feel safe, and you are most likely to be standing on the sidewalk when the best of those days arrives. A farmer does not dig up his seeds each morning to check that they are growing. He knows the checking is the killing. He waters, he waits, and he trusts the slow, dark work happening where he cannot see it. Warren Buffett put the whole philosophy into 6 words: our favorite holding period is forever. He did not mean you should never sell. He meant you should buy as though you might never need to, so that doing nothing becomes not laziness, but the plan. Coins on a table gather a film of dust. Left alone, undisturbed, they do not stay still. Quietly they stack, then they tower. Here is the cruel joke at the center of all this. Doing almost nothing for a very long time is the hardest discipline in finance, harder than research, harder than cleverness, because every instinct you own is built to act. A chess master sits across the board and does not move. To the untrained eye he looks idle. He is not idle. He is exercising the most expensive restraint in the room, the refusal to make a move worse than waiting. The patient investor is the same. His stillness is not absence. It is a decision, renewed daily, not to undo the good thing he already did. This is why the legend of the forgotten accounts refuses to die. The dead investor is simply the patient investor taken to his logical end, perfectly unmoved, perfectly committed, immune at last to the small panics that erode the rest of us. You do not need to forget your accounts. You only need to act as if you had to build something sound, and then leave it the dignity of being left alone. If this is the kind of thinking you want more of, slow, deliberate, against the current, you are already in the right place. Stay a while, there is no hurry here. So the next time the screen turns red and the old voice says do something, consider that the most powerful move on the board may be the one you do not make. The frantic trader and the calm one are watching the very same market, only one of them is at war with it. The sleeping man under the oak was never lazy. He simply understood, better than the rest of us, that some things grow best when you take your hands off them. Wealth is not what you have, it's what you no longer need to chase. Until next time.